ingin yang kami ya ada beberapa yang kami sampaikan. Yang pertama itu untuk Pak Najib, kami inginkan kegiatan ini bukan hanya untuk Fakultas Teknik Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar. Kami ingin juga dikolaborasikan dengan teman-teman di Universitas Muhammadiyah lain. Kami di Sulawesi Selatan itu khusus di Indonesia, Sulawesi Selatan itu sangat banyak fakultas teknik, Universitas Muhammadiyah. Oleh karena itu kami harapkan bukan cuma dengan Fakultas Teknik Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar yang dijoin nanti. Ke depan perlu dengan fakultas-fakultas yang Universitas Muhammadiyah lainnya. Kemudian kelanjutan kegiatan ini kami harap ada sign MOU yang bisa kita laksanakan untuk memperkuat legitimasi kerjasama kita. Ini kita harapkan bisa secepatnya dilaksanakan oleh Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar, khususnya yang sudah berkegiatan 2 kali ini, dengan Universitas Malaysia Perlis. Harapan ini sangat ingin dilaksanakan oleh pimpinan kami, khususnya Pak Rektor Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar selalu menitip pesan ke kami, kalau bisa ada model kerjasama baru dengan Universitas Malaysia Perlis. Sehingga kami harapkan kepada Ibu Mahrida untuk segera menindaklanjuti. Mudah-mudahan kalau berkenan teman-teman di Universitas Malaysia Perlis, itu ya bulan Desember kalau bisa kita sudah bisa ada join-join kerjasama yang bisa muncul. Yang terakhir insya Allah atas arahan Ibu Mahrida kita akan coba-coba benchmarking ke Unimap. Insya Allah kita akan jalan-jalan ke sana. Ibu Mahrida akan mengatur siapa yang akan pergi ke Malaysia. Mudah-mudahan teman-teman di Universitas Malaysia Perlis bisa menerima kami dengan lapang dan memberikan apa yang kami butuhkan. Mungkin itu yang kami bisa sampaikan. Kami harapkan kegiatan ini tidak selesai dengan 2 session. Mudah-mudahan ada session berikutnya. Kami sudah siap untuk prodi yang lain. Kami sudah siap dengan pembicara yang lain khusus untuk jurusan elektro atau kejuruteraan kalau di Malaysia. Kami sudah siap dengan pemateri berikut dengan judul-judul yang baru. Diharapkan bisa berlanjut. Terakhir, mari sama-sama kita membuka kegiatan ini dengan membaca basmalah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Sekian, sebelum saya tutup, saya mohon maaf apabila selama kegiatan ini ada sesuatu lain hal yang tidak berkenan di hati setiap peserta kegiatan. Sekian, nasrun minallah wa barakatuh karib wa wasrin mu'minin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya kembalikan ke Ibu Irna.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Safaat, for your encouraging remarks and for the big supporting to this session. Okay, before we dive into the presentation, maybe let's take a moment to get to know University Malaysia Perlis a bit better. We are excited to share a short video showcasing the campus programs, achievements, and maybe student admission opportunities. And it will be presented by Wahida. Are you ready? Or Dr. Syakab?
I'll share the screen.
Okay, presented by Dr. Ahmad Syakab. And he is one of the speaker today. Okay, Dr. Syakab, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think the video will be played by someone else. Then I do the
Yeah.
research topics that we have
Oh,
here
yeah.
in
Oh,
electrical
you
faculty.
just, please.
I'll help to
topic.
share the
Okay.
screen.
Oke,
Thank you.
silahkan.
You're welcome.
Okay, Kaf, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for
Is
the.
this your presentation or
No.
the promotion campus?
This is the promotion for our research topics in the faculty.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So from the short video, sorry. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Ahmad
Good
Shakaf.
morning.
So I will do a short introduction on our Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Technology. Yeah. So as you can see from the video, we do have quite a few of faculties here in UNIMAP. But since I'm from the electrical faculty, so I will introduce the research topics that we have in our faculty, which may or may not be interesting to some of you. Right. So let me move to my slide. Okay. So for the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Technology in UNIMAP, we are divided into two main departments. One is the Electrical Engineering Department, and the second one is the Mechatronics Engineering Department. So we offered quite a lot of programs actually for postgraduates, PhDs and also masters, ranging from power systems until even robotics and automation, which you can see here in this slide. I think the majority of our postgraduate students are in electrical systems, but we do have quite a few of them in mechatronics, also doing robotics and signal processing and artificial intelligence solutions. So I will move quickly throughout our research expertise and topics that are available for Muhammadiyah University of Makassar students who are interested to continue their studies here in UNIMAP. So the first one we have from Associate Professor Dr. Baha, which involves electrical inverters and also renewable energy. Second one we have from Dr. Azwa Ali, which focuses on energy harvesting, especially wireless power. We also have Dr. Ashraf Bani Ahmad, who focuses on batteries. We have Dr. Muhammad Hafizi Idris, who focuses on fault detection in power transmission. We have Associate Professor Hazia, who also focuses on electrical systems, which more specifically in switching transient simulation. We have Associate Professor Dr. Koh Xing Fan, which focuses in dielectric spectroscopy. We have Dr. Woi Chin Leong, where his expertise lies on grounding technology in electrical systems. We also have Dr. Nur Harziana, focusing on renewable energy. Dr. Nur Shafawati in power electronics. Dr. Nur Adiani in wireless power transfer, energy harvesting also. Dr. Najiha Abu Bakar in energy management system. Dr. Muhammad Hatta in power system protection. Dr. Ahmad Shukri in embedded systems and AI. Dr. Surina Matsubo in advanced control of electrical systems, especially renewable energy, specifically wind turbines. We have Associate Professor Dr. Sharul Ashikin in power electronic converters, also grid connected inverters. Dr. Tiang focusing on magnetic synchronous machines. So the ones before this are from the electrical department, and from here on out is from our mechatronics department. We have Professor Dr. Abu Hassan, who focuses on environmental sensing. We have Dr. Aimi Salihah, who focuses on image processing in electrical systems and also biomedical applications. We have Dr. Ahmad Zakaria, who focuses on tracking technology and incorporates it with AI. Dr. Lam Chi Kiang is focusing on machine vision in sports analysis. Dr. Eng focuses on machine vision in traffic applications. We have Dr. Fahisal. His expertise is on IoT, especially environmental sensing. Dr. Muhammad Fakhzan is focusing more on PLCs, automations, and also early detection of kinematics involves your knees. Okay, and then we have Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Fazalul, who focuses on radio frequency tomography. We have Dr. Abdul Halim, who's now Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Halim, focusing more on wireless positioning system in mobile robotics. Dr. Haryati Jafar focuses on image processing. Prof. Hazri is one of the founders of our Unmanned Aerial System Center of Excellence. He focuses on developing unmanned aerial systems. Then we have Associate Professor Dr. Johairi. His expertise is on mobile robotics and industrial robotics in developing autonomous robotics applications. Then we have Associate Professor Dr. Kamarul Zaman, which is our head of department here in the mechatronics department. His expertise is on reinforcement learning for path planning in mobile robotics, especially in gas source localization applications. Then we have Associate Professor Muhammad Khairul. his expertise is on environmental sensing and also IoT in agro-technology, agriculture technology. We have Dr. Kumuta, whose expertise is on renewable energy and energy harvesting. Then we have Dr. Siti Mahanis, whose expertise in EEG signals. We have Dr. Mastura, who's also, her expertise is in radio frequency tomography. And then we have Dr. Mohaje, his expertise is in sensing systems, especially piezoelectric sensors, which focuses on vibration to generate energy. We have Dr. Muhammad Nasir Ayub, who specializes in vehicle-to-vehicle communications. Dr. Muhammad Nazrin specializes in image processing and also robotics, especially in sports applications. He's one of the member in CERT, which is a Center of Excellence for sports here in UNIMAP. We have Dr. Muhammad Shohanas and also Prof. Abdul Hamid, where their research group is focusing on EEG signals. Associate Professor Dr. Shafriza, which focuses on performance analysis using wearables. This is some of my research topics that we have involving mobile robotics and also automated robotic applications. We have Dr. Ellen, who specializes in air quality systems. We have Associate Professor Shazmin Aniza, who specializes in 3D point cloud data processing. We have Dr. Sukairi Sudin, who specializes in sports analysis and also IoT. Dr. Nur Shahira, who specializes in hyperspectral imagery. And I think that is all from us in FKTE, Faculty of Electrical Engineering. We do have a QR code here that you can download the slides. So the slides actually contains some information on admission to UNIMAP, especially to our faculty. You can download the slide and see the hidden slides. I didn't introduce the admission because I'm not too familiar with it. I'm afraid I will give you the wrong information. So you can read the slides. And there's also a website, Google site between UNIMAP and UMY. I think this is prepared by our Pusat Pengajian Siswaza, which also contain the information for admission, such as the fees, the study fees, and so on. This is a Google form for application for postgraduate study in UNIMAP, which also can be found in the slides. We also have a WhatsApp group between Universitas Muhammadiyah postgrad students. Can scan this group and maybe chat with your friends, ask them how UNIMAP is, maybe get some information on how to register for postgraduate programs here in University Malaysia Perlis. I think that is all the short introduction for our research expertise here in this faculty. Should I continue straight? Yeah. Should I continue straight to my webinar or?
Oke, nanti saya arahkan. Nanti dia.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Syakab. I think it's very interesting information from Dr. Ahmad Syakab about research in University Malaysia Perlis. And it is inspiring to see how the many opportunities available in University Malaysia Perlis. Okay, before we proceed to our main presentation, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Ahmad Syakaf Ali Yon from University Malaysia Perlis. And before that, I will read a short CV of Dr. Syakaf. Dr. Ahmad Syakaf bin Japan. He graduating with honors in 2014. He subsequently went on to pursue graduate studies at University Malaysia Perlis, earning a Master Science of Computer Engineering in 2017, and finally a PhD in Mechatronic Engineering in 2023. And about his academic career, Dr. Ahmad Syakaf has focused in his research on robotic, chemical sensing, artificial intelligence, and publishing in several academic journals and proceedings. As a student and researcher, he has did workshop and training in programming and embedded devices at UNIMED and other institutions. Okay. Maybe that's all for a while. Your CV are so great, Dr. Syakaf. Okay, without further ado, I invite Dr. Ahmad Syakaf Ali Yon to begin the presentation. So please, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Inawati, for the introduction. The CV is short because I've only been a lecturer for, this will be my second year. Before this, I was, do some working in the industry and also do my PhD lah. Right. So today I will do some, I think, short introduction towards to show you guys what we have done here in University Malaysia Perlis, which involves here CSTEC, which stands for Center of Excellence for Advanced Sensor Technology. Under CSTEC or under UNIMED, we actually have a company called Ideria Sdn Bhd. This company is a startup company for University Malaysia Perlis. You can think of it as one of the commercial wing for University Malaysia Perlis lah. We do offer our services to the industry regarding automation and any solutions that are needed by the industry lah. So in today's theme, Sensor Network and IoT Ecosystem, the Foundation of Future Technology, I will introduce some of the projects that we did with CSTEC and also Ideria, which involve sensor network and also IoT ecosystem. So first, I will do a short introduction about CSTEC. CSTEC is a center of excellence, meaning that there are some intermingling between lecturers in different faculties and different fields. So we have 21 academicians here in CSTEC. I think around 2 professors and 10 associate professors who are from mechatronics engineering, computer engineering, microelectronic engineering, mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, and also chemical engineering. We have around 20 postgraduate students currently doing their studies under these 21 academicians. We have 20 undergraduates doing their final year projects this year. Around 20 final year students also doing their industrial design projects this year. And before this, we have around 20 interns doing their internships here in CSTEC and also in Ideria Sdn Bhd. So what we do here in CSTEC, since the name implies that we do sensing, So we do fabricate our own sensors. So we design and then fabricate our own sensors. We incorporate it with wireless communication modules. And we do the deployments and the automation using our sensors. And since around 5 to 6 years ago, we also incorporate artificial intelligence solutions with our sensors. And of course, when we talk about IoT, usually there will be some dashboard or mobile apps that will accompany our solutions. So we do also training, sensor test rig, the fabricating miniature sensor device for prototypes, and also do the testing and characterization of our sensors, meaning that we can provide solutions from design, from the drawing board to product development. So the academicians in SISTEC are experts in sensing technology, AI, big data analytics, robotics and automation, wireless communication, IoT application, and also web portal development. And our target market, of course, will be the manufacturing industry, because we here in UNIMAP work closely with multiple manufacturing industries which are close by, especially in Penang, in Pulau Pinang. We do also offer our solutions to government entities, such as the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Sports, and others. So our academia partners is quite wide-ranging, actually, from Korea, Japan, UK, Sweden, and also, of course, here locally in Malaysia. So we hope to add Muhammadiyah University of Makassar into this slide soon, so we can collaborate with each other, developing or improving our solutions here for the industry. Right. So here in SISTEC, because we do have our own startup company, so we work closely with each other. So SISTEC usually do the research lah, because we receive fundamental research grants from the government. And from the fundamental research grants, we do also receive prototyping grants, where the researchers in SISTEC can develop those prototypes. However, from my experience, because lecturers, as we all know, lecturers are their times are quite limited, right? Because you're most busy with teaching, with research, with publications, with administrative duties. So they don't have the time and energy to allocate towards marketing their research. So we, or the staffs in IDERIA, will help improve their solutions or their research into actual working products that are suitable for the industry. So IDERIA has 9 core members. Most of them are lecturers here in UNIMAP, and some of them are permanent staff of IDERIA. So Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Zakaria is the CEO of the company. We have Associate Professor Dr. Latifah Munira Kamaluddin, Associate Professor Dr. Sai Muhammad Mamdo, Dr. Yuzairi Abdul Rahim, who is now doing his attachment in Yamanashi, Japan. We have Dr. Goh Chiu Chiet, who is our web portal developer, software programmer. Dr. Retnam, who's our software developer and also our AI robotics expert. We have Dr. Noraini Azmi, who is an expert in wireless communication. And we also have Mr. Muhammad Nasruddin Norsilan, who is in charge of our marketing and whatever it is that is related to marketing. So Dr. Goh, Dr. Retnam, Dr. Noraini, and myself are actually students of Dr. Amar and Dr. Munira. So IDERIA was established to provide employment for our own graduates and also provide commercial opportunities to researchers in UNIMAP to sell or market their products to the industry. So our clients are quite wide-ranging, as you can see here, from manufacturing industries to logistic companies to sports agencies to medical agencies and so on. So in lieu of our topic today regarding WSN And IoT, I think all of us know, or most of us know, by IoT meaning that we make our applications or our product online, right? We're sending data to the cloud or to our servers. So by doing IoT, by developing IoT applications, we have a lot of data. So IoT has been booming, I think, from 10 years ago. So everyone was doing IoT, everything is online now, even your refrigerator is online, your washing machine is online, those kind of things, right? So we have data everywhere. We have the data, millions of data points, if not billions, and not a bite to eat. What this means is that we have a lot of data. As an example, as an easy example, some of the lecturers here, I think, will recognize this. Not a problem, but a common phenomena that we have our final year students who are doing their final year projects or mini projects, right? They do IoT projects, and they do integration of sensors with microcontrollers, such as Arduino, ESP32, Raspberry Pi. So they managed to do those kind of integrations. They managed to push their data to the cloud, to existing web portal or existing web applications. They can show their data to us. Like, as an example, the temperature today is 30 degrees. The illumination of the surrounding is 2000 lumens, things like that. They can show the data to us, meaning that their IoT application is working, right? We have the data points, but not a bite to eat, which means that what are we going to do with all those data, right? So the evolution of IoT is that when we make our sensing applications online, or when we make our products online, we have all those millions of data points. Then comes the word big data, right? That's what big data means. We have a lot of data, but we need to translate that data into insights. So I took a quote here from Carly Fiorina, who is a former CEO of Hewlett & Packard back in 2010s. The goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. So we have a lot of data, millions of data points. What are we going to do with it? All your temperature sensor data, your speed sensor data, let's say whatever data that you have, what information that we can get from that data. So we do some analysis of it, right? We did some analysis, we plot our graphs, and then when we present our graphs, and your boss will ask that, what does this graph means? So it's the same with our students. When they have gathered all the data, they plot their graphs, they present them to us, showing all that graphs. But when we ask them, what does this mean, right? What are the insights? What is the meaning? What is the insight that I can get from all this data, from all this information? So that is where I think, especially for students in UNIMAP, are currently lacking. So today I will show you not how to create the insight or meaning, but how to relate when you have all those data, right? What kind of applications, what kind of solutions that you can offer to the industry. So one of the projects that we at IDERIA and also SISTEC has been working on since the fundamental grants until commercialization is smart and connected healthcare. We work closely with Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia or Ministry of Health of Malaysia, and also UEM Agenta, which is a company that provides medical and healthcare solutions to our local hospitals. So from our fundamental grants that we received, we did a lot of research on asset tracking. We can now able to say that using our sensors, we can track where the medical machines or any machines actually in the hospital are located. we can do that already. Using Bluetooth, LoRa, Wi-Fi, we can do localization indoors. So, what the Ministry of Health is currently facing, a problem that they are facing right now is that concession companies such as UEM Agentas, they charge the ministry an amount, let's say 1 million ringgit every month to maintain this kind of devices, this kind of machines. So what the Ministry of Health wants to know is that if I pay you $1 million, 1 million ringgit every month, I want to see whether the medical devices is actually being used. If not, companies like UEM Agenta can charge more and more every year, even though the machines are not in use or are not maintained properly. So it is an inefficient allocation of resource. They do have their own reporting, but the reporting is rely heavily on manual logging. And without this tracking, equipment could be lost, right? So we work closely with MOH and also UEM Agenta. We deployed our sensors. Our sensors is the communication between sensors and also our gateways is using Bluetooth. And then our gateways connecting to the cloud using 4G. We deploy our sensors inside these medical devices, right? These sensors contains IMUs, initial measurement units. You have 9 degrees of freedom there, right? You have your accelerometers, your magnetometers, your gyrometers. So by having this data from the IMU, we can deduce. We can use this data through signal processing, through AI. We can deduce that how actually the devices is being used in the hospital, like how long is it turned on daily? If it's turned on for 24 hours, how many hours is it actually being used? So that kind of insight is what the Ministry of Health wants to know. So we provide our solutions to them. And also, of course, in any IoT applications, we do also provide a dashboard. So this is one of the example in hospital of Langkawi nearby. We deployed around 140 Bluetooth sensors and around 40 Raspberry Pi servers and only one gateways, meaning that we only use one SIM card to send all this data to the cloud. So the upkeep is actually quite low. And we managed to use the sensor data, analyze the signal, and we can actually track how long or how much the device is actually being used. By knowing this kind of information, like how long it's being used, how often is it being used, the company UEM Agenta can actually do predictive maintenance on their devices. So right now it is scheduled maintenance, right? You have like every 1 month I have to maintain this device. I have to change the motors. I have to change the pumps, things like that. But by using the data that we get and we analyze the data and we deduce the insights from it, we can actually develop an algorithm to do predictive maintenance, right? Which in turn will cut the maintenance cost of such devices and also will save the Ministry of Health quite some of money. So the problem we face during this project is that to deploy our devices, we have to actually open up the device, open up the medical device, right? And we tap into the power source. So in the case of devices that are out of warranty, meaning that the warranty period is over, there's no problem in that. We can tap into the devices, there's no problem. But there are quite a few number of devices which are still under warranty from the manufacturer. That one we cannot tap. That one we cannot tap the power source. So Right now, CSTAC and IDERIA is working closely with some of the lecturers in the electrical department, and also to incorporate energy harvesting technology with our sensors. So if we can implement wireless power charger as an example, and charge our sensors wirelessly, we don't have to tap the power source of the medical devices, thus avoiding how to say, avoiding, kita tak kacau lah warranty tu, right? We did not touch the warranty. So that's one of the current project that we are working on, trying to make our sensors truly wireless. It is communicating wirelessly and it is powered wirelessly. So we need power harvesting technology while also keep on miniaturizing our sensor and make it as low power as possible, meaning it doesn't consume too much electricity. Right. Having said that we have managed to track the usage of their devices and making them communicate wirelessly, we can actually further improve this solution towards a smarter BMS system, is building management system. Right.
Harusnya what do you do saja, tapi kita pakai R, what are you doing? Nah, berubah lagi apa yang sedang kamu.
Sorry. Sorry, can I continue? Okay. Right. So since we can do all that, we can develop a smarter BMS system, building management system, which can incorporate our sensors into FCU, power utilization, into our chiller, into our AHU. We even can maybe improve it and deploy it to elevators and also fire extinguishers, right? We can incorporate AIQ and comfort level and do integration, send them to the cloud server, and develop the dashboard and management apps for it. It also can be expanded to FEMS autoclave IoT solutions, right? We can do smart sensing. We can deploy our sensors in autoclave. It can be powered by Bluetooth. We can send data wirelessly from these expensive machines without actually voiding the warranty. The same with genset IoT solutions, the same with oxygen monitoring IoT solutions. So as if you notice, all these equipments or machines are actually existing machines that are currently right now there at the hospital. Usually when we come out with a solution or we come out with a product, the industry will not, it is highly unlikely that the industry would want to change their replace their equipments or infrastructure, because the infrastructure is already there. What we can offer to them is some modification on their existing infrastructure. So an analog equipment like this, so the meter there is analog, right? So we have to come up with ingenious ways to digitalize it, because when we want to send the data to the cloud, to do analysis, to get the insights, we have to digitalize it. So we have to come up with a cheap, easy to install, easy to maintain, and ingenious way to do it lah. So in this case, for this oxygen tank here, we use a CCTV to read the meter wirelessly. The CCTV is connected wirelessly. It reads the meter and send the numbers to the cloud, and they can monitor the pressure level of the equipment online. Okay, so those are some of the solutions that we offer to the healthcare industry. We are now expanding to a few more hospitals. In this expansion, we also introduce air quality sensors with the solution, because in the hospital, there are certain wards or certain departments that need their air to be as clean as possible. But how can they prove that their air quality in the department is clean? So we provide them with air quality solutions. So here in SysTech, we have a product called AirSense that have been developed for more than 10 years. So this one, the round one here is from 5 years ago, I think. We developed the sensors from scratch. We incorporated with microcontrollers. We deploy it indoors. The current generation is like this. It looks like an air purifier, right? Because it is. So we work closely with a company in China to procure an OEM air purifier. So because we don't want to waste our time on designing the enclosure, the air sucking mechanism and so on. What we want to focus on is the sensing part, right? So we focus on the sensing part. We buy an OEM air purifier and we incorporate our sensors inside the air purifier, and we can deploy it in buildings, in hospitals, in anywhere indoors. Right. So these air purifiers, with our sensors inside, we can also attach it with our Bluetooth sensor that was tracking the equipment. So we can also track the equipment. We can also track the air purifier. Also incorporated with our air quality sensors, and we can connect them with Bluetooth or LoRa or Wi-Fi or whatever connectivity that they preferred. And we can send the data through 4G to our cloud, which right now we are using AWS. Right. So the next step for this project, because up till now, all the things that we do is indoor solutions. So the next step is to design a sensor to improve our current sensor and also the enclosures and everything to make it suitable to work outdoors. Right. So from air quality data, what kind of insights that we can get, especially outdoors, right? Air quality sensors, usually they give you the measurements of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, in numbers, right? When we see the numbers, oh, it's very high, oh, it's low, right? But what does it actually mean? So we have to analyze the data, come out with some insights about the data, right? When CO2 is high, if we deploy this outdoor near a busy intersection, let's say. So if the CO2 is high, we can say that, oh, right now at 12 o'clock, there is a lot of cars, things like that. So maybe the government body that regulates traffic can improve that situation, maybe, right? Maybe installing a much more smarter traffic lights and so on. So you have to know how to relate your data with real world situations, not just incorporating sensors with microcontrollers and then sending it to the cloud and display it on a web page or mobile app and call it done. No, you have to come out what is the meaning of the data. So another project that we did with the industry, in this case is with Petronas, right? So from our vast experience in asset tracking, Petronas actually approached us during a convention where they want to track their project progress, right? So in a project, in a construction project especially, it will involve manpower, material, and also machines. So Petronas wants to actually know or predict when their project will be delayed. Why is it delayed? When and how to overcome it. So to know all this, we have to track everything. We have to track the spools, the manpower, the machines, everything. Spools meaning these tiny parts or bigger parts of, in this case, a pipe, right? So they will do some welding on these pipes and turn it into larger sections of pipes before taking it to the construction site for installation. So they do all this in a fabrication yard. So in the fabrication fabrication yard, we install RFID antennas. And we attach RFID tags to all these pools. So RFID tags will transmit its ID, and we can actually measure the signal strength at the antenna, right? And we can do triangulation of the signals, and we can get the actual location of the spools. So as an example here, you can see the spool movement log here. The spool moved from the welding area to NDT. NDT is where they do non-destructive testing to see whether the welding is good or not. If it's not good, it will return back to the welding area again. So in this case, it is the first welding is not so good. It was returned to the welding area again. After they did another welding, they sent it back to NDT where they did some testing, and they did a test, and the results was good. They send it for sandblasting and then painting. After painting, they will send it to the construction site for installation. So all of this movement, how much time the spool spend in an area, we can actually deduce this data to see whether there will be delays on the project or not. Like this spool was sent to the welding area 2 times, where in an ideal situation it should be only there for 1 time, right? But in this case it's 2 times. So there's some delay there. We can calculate the delay, and we can predict the project delays. Overall, we can predict the project delays. We also track the manpower inside the fabrication yard. We can see where they are stationed. We can see if they are doing the work or not. So this is an example video. We are tracking the activity, right? So we can actually see the workers and detect if they are welding or not. So a welder will spend most of their time working here in this location, but Petronas wants to actually know how much time are their welders spend actually welding, right? They want to know the effective man hours. So that if they can see the effective man hours is quite high, maybe they can add more welders. If they can see the effective man hours of welding is quite low, but the project is progressing well, maybe they can reduce the number of welders and place them somewhere else. See this, we can see the welding activity. So this in this solution, we also incorporate CCTVs inside the fabrication yard. We did some AI training, so we use the model to do the inference. Aside from activities and manpower, we also try to detect PPEs, safety jacket, hard hat, things like that, in order to comply with Petronas zero tolerance on safety, right? You must wear hard hat all the time. You must wear a safety jacket all the time. But when they have this data, what do they want to do with it? They want to send a warning to the supervisors or things like that. So you have all this data. You have to relate what are the applications that can use this kind of data. So now the project has grown to a bigger project in Johor, where we track the movement of manpower in different locations. Now the sites are bigger. It's no longer just in the fabrication yard. This is now actually in the construction area, which involves hundreds of workers, millions of man hours, thousands of spools. So we can predict actually the progress of the project is on time or delayed. The next step, because right now they are wearing RFIDs, right? They have to carry an extra equipment or device with them all the time, which may prove troublesome. But what they have to actually wear every time they enter a site, for every construction worker or every fabrication worker, what they have to wear every time, must wear, is the smart helmet, is the safety helmet, right? So what we are currently improving on right now is incorporating smart sensors, flexible solar panels, and batteries with hard hat, with the safety helmet, in order to come out with a smarter solution for all the workers to wear, so we don't have to use RFID trackers anymore. Continuing on with our tracking experience, we also do logistic and fleet management projects. It started maybe 10 years ago with to track Unimap's own shuttle bus. We developed our own shield here. This is an Arduino shield. We use this shield we incorporate LoRa and ESP with the shield to transmit signals using LoRa, because the buses are only moving in our campus. But then the buses started to move outside of the campus, and we have to track them as well. So we move from LoRa to GPS. This is the second generation of the tracker. But currently we are using a much more advanced tracker that can incorporate other sensors such as vibration sensors, OBDs. So you can actually track the vehicle speed, how much kilometers have they moved, how much fuel are left, what are the tire pressure, and so on. So when we have those kind of information, we can actually study the behavior, the driving behavior of the drivers, which can be used by the logistics companies to evaluate their drivers and so on. So our solution is also being used in Yamanashi, Japan right now, in Kofu City. It's a small logistics company. There's only 11 vehicles, but they use the same kind of sensors that we use here in Unimap to track our buses. Lastly, I think this is the last one, I think. I want to share some of our solutions for Smart Cities project. So Smart Cities project are incorporating smart elements to a residential or commercial area. So we were approached by Selangor Industrial Corporation, which is a developer, developer company lah. So they are developing Selangor Cyber Valley, which is located in Cyberjaya. So they want to make their neighborhood or their small town here as smart as possible. So we incorporate mainly CCTVs to do visual analytics. We also incorporate smart elements to their traffic lights, smart elements to their street lights, weather stations, flood prediction stations, and so on. So using our data, we receive terabytes of videos from SIC, Selangor Industrial Corporation. We get from the installation of the CCTVs, we get terabytes of videos, right? So we have our postgraduate students from 3 to 4 years ago. So they develop the model to track what type of vehicle, right? To detect what types of vehicles are moving through their roads. Is it a car? Is it a truck? And then it was improved. If it is a car, what kind of car? Is it a hatchback? Is it a sedan? Is it a van? Is it an MPV? Is it an SUV? Things like that. From the detection of vehicles, we can also count how many vehicles are moving. So each vehicles that were detected, we can count. We can count them. We also can detect their license plate number. This is right. So by having this kind of information for license plate number, of course, it will be related to security. Maybe they want to use this kind of information for security reasons. But for the number of cars and what type of cars, what class of cars or vehicles they are, when we present this to them, they actually ask us, so what can they do with this data? Why should I know how many cars move through this roundabout every day? Why should I know how many trucks? Why should I know the difference between a hatchback car and a MPV? So when you have to be able to explain to them by having this information, right? You can actually count how many or how high is your carbon emission in an area. Because when you want to develop a smart city, a smart neighborhood, there are certain things that you have to achieve to get that official certification of your area to be a smart city, right? You have to comply with the United Nations SDGs, right? Sustainable Development Goals. So you have to actually calculate how much carbon emission there is in an area. So by incorporating this kind of technology and also maybe deploying our sensors from before, right? We have our air quality sensors, we can actually measure them. But when we have the number of cars now or number of trucks moving in an area, we can calculate the average air pollution that it creates, and we can move it to towards calculating the greenhouse effect, right? We also offer flood prediction stations, EV charger IoT system, but this is I think now is obsolete because EV charging system now comes with their own IoT system. Before this, they don't. So we actually provided IoT systems to EV chargers manufacturers. So we can produce a digital twin of the smart neighborhood, which is now currently in trend, right? Everyone wants to have their digital twin of their system or building. We can display the analytics that we get, and we have to offer the insights lah. So the first one we did, the project with Ministry of Health, we use Bluetooth. With Petronas, we use RFID. The one with Smart City, we use a lot of things, LoRa, Wi-Fi, wired connection, and so on. For sports, we use UWB because sports, it needs to be, the tracking must be precise. It must be in centimeter accuracy. So we use ultra wideband. So this is just a pet project of mine, but it is now being commercialized. We have a tracker using UWB that can track each player that is playing football. I think this is maybe quite interesting to you guys as well, because football, I think, is very big in Indonesia. Pasukan Indonesia sekarang, I think, dah hebat dah sekarang. But however, even though if Malaysia or Indonesia rank last in the world, I think the fans will be still there will still be a lot of fans of football, even though if our teams are last in the world, right? So we work closely with our biomedical department. We ask them what kind of analytics that they need for sports research. We also ask professional coaches what do they want. So we come up with this. They want heart rate sensors, VO2 max sensors, and so on. So we can actually calculate the workload, the calories, and so on. With the trackers and some algorithms, we can actually give them the statistics: how many passes are completed, how many tackles were made, how many shots were on target, and so on. So our solutions comes with UWB antennas, UWB sensors. We do also insert our sensors inside the ball, and it is portable, right? We can deploy it anywhere during a game. It takes like 10 minutes to set up and get data from it, and we can provide insights for the coaches, for the physios, for the doctors, and so on. As you can see, the tall thing here, that's an automated camera that we use for broadcasting. That one is still in research. We are not commercializing it yet, but it is under research lah. So here's a demo of it. You can see the analytics in real time. When the player shoots the ball, you can see the ball actually moving in real time lah. So from this system, you can get all the analytics of each player and also the statistics for the team. Let me fast forward this a little bit. Yeah, things like that. So the next plan is using the automated camera, right? We want an automated event tagging. If we can use the camera for all the statistics to get the analytics, how many passes were made, how many tackles were made, how many shots, right? If we can use the cameras, we can discard the UWB system entirely. because a camera system is much more cheaper than the UWB sensor system. If we manage to come out with a solution that only uses a camera, it will be really cheap, and we can actually provide broadcasting solution to industry, and we can also provide automated analytics using machine vision, right? Image processing. So if you guys are interested in joining our team, not just IDERIA, but SISTEC lah, if you want to continue your studies here in UNIMAP, remember you have SISTEC, Center of Excellence for Advanced Sensor Technology. We do a lot of sensing applications, incorporating them with IoTs, with AIs, and so on. You can contact us at info@ideria.co, or you can email me at ahmadshakaf@unimap.edu.my. We can discuss. We can do some discussion and see which projects that are available, which projects that you guys are interested on. We can improve our collaboration with each other. Thank you very much. I think I took a little bit more time than was allocated. Sorry about that. So any questions, I think?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Shakaf Ali Yeon, for your insightful presentation. I think so many research you have, yeah. Okay,
Sorry,
next.
yeah.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Dr. Shakaf. Next, we are delighted to introduce our second speaker. Are you ready, Dr. Ridwan?
Okay.
Dr.
My voice?
Ridwan?
Okay, my voice.
Okay, yes, okay. We are delighted to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Insinyur Ridwan Eskom MT IPM from Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar. And before that, I will read a short CV of Dr. Ridwan. Wait a moment. Okay, Dr. Ridwan is a lecturer and researcher in the electrical engineering department at Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar. He earned his doctorate in electrical engineering on December 2023 with a dissertation titled Innovative Dynamic Sign Language Pattern Translator System Based on Deep Learning. As an academic, Dr. Ridwan is actively involved in research and scientific publication. Some of his notable works include recognition of Indonesian Sign Language, CB, using lip motion control. This is published in CIPRO Journal, right, in 2017. And Indonesian Sign Language Letter Interpreter application using lip motion control base, presented at the IOP Conference Series Material Science and Engineering in 2019. And Deep Sign Language Translation System with Pose and Hand Gesture Detection, published in ECIC Express Letter in 2023. Dr. Ridwan is also involved in the development of the scientific journal Vertex Electro, managed by Electrical Engineering Department at UNISMU. This journal published research in electrical engineering covering topics such information technology, Internet of Things, power systems, signal processing, system and electronic, and so on. Okay. Okay, maybe that's all the CV. Now please welcome Dr. Insinyur Ridwan Eskom MT IPM to present the topic. Okay, Dr. Ridwan, the floor is yours.
Oke, terima kasih. Bagaimana Bu Irna suaranya kedengaran?
Okay, clear.
Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Oke, sebelum saya lanjut, izinkan saya untuk mereview kembali materi yang diberikan oleh Pak Dr. Ahmad Sakaf. Jadi saya lihat proyek-proyek yang diberikan beliau itu sangat menarik. Jadi mungkin Bu Irna ada rencana ke depan untuk kolaborasi dengan beliau ya atau
Boleh dokter, insya Allah
boleh
boleh.
boleh.
Ya,
Iya, saya lihat
Jadi
kita bisa sepertinya ada peluang kolaborasi ya.
ada insya Allah nanti
insya
lewat
Allah.
Pak Dr. Ahmad Sakaf. Last year I joined collaboration with USIM, Universitas Sains Islam Malaysia. Jadi perkenalkan Pak Dr. Ahmad Sakaf. Jadi saya di elektro lebih cenderung ke artificial intelligence, IoT, dan lebih banyak meneliti ke apa namanya ke sekolah luar biasa. Contohnya tunanetra, tunarungu, untuk mengatasi masalah-masalah yang dihadapi oleh anak-anak yang sekolah di sekolah tersebut. Jadi saya lihat beberapa materi project itu mengarah ke sana. Sudah ada beberapa sensor yang luar biasa, sudah terinclude dengan IoT, cloud computing dan lain-lain. Itu sangat luar biasa infrastruktur yang dimiliki oleh Universitas Malaysia Perlis. Jadi harapannya Bu Irna dengan bantuan Ibu Mahrida dan Pak Wadik 1 next year atau beberapa tahun ke depan mungkin ada kerjasama dengan Unimap.
Siap.
Oke, jadi materi yang saya bawakan ini Pak Dr. Sakap sudah memberikan tadi beberapa example, beberapa sensor. Jadi yang saya tekankan di sini ada beberapa tren ya, tren yang sedang berlanjut dan ada beberapa tantangan dan apa arah ke depan dari pengembangan dari sensor network dan artificial intelligence. Jadi mungkin sudah dilihat beberapa tadi contoh-contoh project yang sudah menggunakan artificial intelligence dengan sensor-sensor yang canggih. Ya, terakhir yang di sepak bola tadi itu sungguh luar biasa ya. Untuk mendeteksi semua pergerakan, kecepatan, dan lain-lain itu butuh pembelajaran lebih lanjut di Unibab nantinya. Oke, izinkan saya lanjut sedikit. Oke. Jadi IoT ecosystem itu adalah beberapa komponen yang saling terhubung nantinya yang akan membentuk suatu sistem IoT. Jadi mulai dari sensor, komunikasi, ya, ada prosesnya menggunakan AI, ya, device management, dan yang penting adalah security, dan yang terakhir itu adalah application of IoT. Jadi application of IoT tadi ada beberapa yang sudah ditampilkan oleh Dr. Sakap menggunakan framework, apakah menggunakan Android, menggunakan website, itu sudah luar biasa tampilannya ya, untuk dijadikan sebagai aplikasi dari IoT itu. Jadi untuk IoT ekosistem ini ada 3 komponen di sini nantinya yang kita bahas. Yang pertama itu adalah menyangkut dari sensor network itu, ya. Dan yang kedua processing dan analitik, ya, menggunakan AI itu sendiri. Dan yang terakhir adalah bagaimana mengembangkan aplikasi dari IoT, contoh yang tadi ya, jadi ada smart home, smart city, healthcare, sebagaimana sudah ditampilkan oleh Dr. Syakab, aplikasi yang sudah real jalan di lapangan, supaya kita tidak bermimpi lagi kalau ternyata IoT itu di negara Malaysia, utamanya di Unimap itu sudah dijalankan atau sudah dikembangkan. Oke. Namun dari itu apa namanya, ada beberapa tantangan ya. Jadi ada beberapa tantangan yang mesti kita ketahui di dalam penggunaan sensor network itu. Ya, yang pertama adalah energi ya. Jadi sensor yang bekerja di medan atau di lapangan atau di manapun tempat objek kita menggunakan sensor itu menggunakan energi ya. Jadi di sinilah kalau misalnya kita menggunakan sensor tanpa AI di dalamnya, pemborosan energi itu kadangkala ada karena sensor itu akan bekerja terus-menerus tanpa ada not yang akan berhenti pada waktu data itu tidak ada ya. Tetapi jika nantinya ke depan ya ini sudah disupport dengan AI, maka itu salah satu hal yang bisa mencegah dari atau meminimal penggunaan energi yang ada di dalam sensor itu. Masalah yang kedua jika menggunakan traditional sensor network adalah deteksi yang salah atau security karena belum bisa membedakan yang mana data yang dibutuhkan atau yang tidak. Dan yang ketiga, masalah yang didapatkan jika menggunakan sensor network adalah adaptasi dengan lingkungan. Karena kadangkala kita menempatkan sensor itu, situasi di lingkungan itu berubah-ubah, baik suhunya maupun apa yang ada di lingkungan itu yang dideteksi oleh sensor itu. Jadi dengan nanti bantuan dengan AI itu bisa meminimalkan perubahan-perubahan di dalam lingkungan itu. Dan yang keempat, data management. Jadi data yang dikumpulkan oleh sensor itu diolah terlebih dahulu jika menggunakan AI. Tetapi dengan menggunakan traditional sensor network, itu data yang diambil itu langsung dikirim ke node-node atau ke server untuk diolah. Jadi terjadi pengumpulan data yang tidak terolah, belum terfilter, sehingga penumpukan data itu nantinya akan menyebabkan penumpukan data di server atau di cloud.
Recording stopped.
Jadi ada beberapa motivasi ya, mengapa perlu AI di samping dari masalah yang tadi yang mau diselesaikan. Yang pertama adalah bagaimana mengadaptasikan sensor itu dengan lingkungan. Ya. Jadi masalah yang tadi, sensor itu kadangkala tidak bisa membaca jika terjadi perubahan-perubahan di lingkungan. Sehingga butuh AI atau training data di dalamnya untuk mendeteksi jika terjadi perubahan-perubahan data di dalam sensor itu atau di dalam lingkungan. Yang kedua, data extraction in hazardous area. Jadi ini sensor ini biasa ditempatkan di area-area yang berbahaya. Contohnya di larutan kimia, misalnya di daerah-daerah vulkanik gunung. Nah, itu terjadi biasa ada perubahan-perubahan struktural, perubahan suhu dan lain-lain. Itu harus dibarengi dengan teknologi AI untuk mendeteksi perubahan-perubahan tersebut supaya lebih cepat adaptasi. Ya. Dan yang ketiga adalah simplification of complex modeling. Jadi mengapa AI penting dalam sensor network itu untuk membantu dalam menemukan rute terbaik dari node itu saling berkomunikasi antara satu sama lain sehingga membuat rute tercepat, rute yang baik berdasarkan hasil riwayat dari rute-rute sebelumnya. Dan yang keempat adalah efisiensi data management and optimization. Jadi di sini sama hal yang tadi ya. Jadi sebelum tadi ada permasalahan bahwa data itu belum terfilter, belum diolah, sehingga semua data yang dibaca oleh sensor itu akan diteruskan ke node atau ke server yang digunakan untuk mengelola hasil dari pembacaan sensor itu. Oleh karena itu, dengan adanya teknologi AI di wireless sensor network itu akan membantu melakukan filterisasi. Jadi data-data yang dibutuhkan itu yang akan masuk ke dalam prosesor node-nya, sehingga beban data yang akan dikirim juga lewat jaringan itu tidak sebesar jika tidak menggunakan AI di dalamnya. Dan yang terakhir ini ya, autonomous control ya, itu berkaitan dengan IoT ya. Jadi pengambilan keputusan dari sensor itu tidak serta-merta lagi harus membutuhkan intervensi manusia. Sehingga jika ada terjadi sesuatu terbaca oleh sensor dan diolah oleh AI dan memberikan sebuah keputusan, maka itu akan langsung
Recording in progress.
dikirim kembali ke aktuator untuk melakukan tindakan di lapangan. Jadi bahasa sederhananya, tidak membutuhkan lagi bantuan manusia untuk mengambil keputusan dan digantikan oleh AI dalam pengambilan keputusan tersebut. Jadi di dalam AI itu, machine learning itu ada 4 ya, yang biasanya kita dengar. Ada supervised learning, itu pembelajaran terarah, unsupervised. Ada reinforcement learning, dan ada semi-supervised learning. Jadi semua yang berkaitan dengan klasifikasi, ya, contohnya regresi, klasifikasi, baik itu machine learning, deep learning, itu biasanya ada di supervised learning. Ya. Jadi pembelajaran yang seperti ini yang sudah ada labelnya, ya, jadi sudah ada data input dan output itu sudah ada, jadi tinggal dicocokkan saja apa komponen, apa kriteria-kriteria yang dimiliki oleh input itu, sehingga dia memiliki kesamaan dengan output, sehingga hasil dari klasifikasi itu akan mendapatkan sebuah output sesuai dengan apa yang sudah di label ya, dari data tersebut. Ya, jadi ini ada beberapa algoritma ya, decision tree, regresi, INN, ya, random forest, SVM, ya, terutama ya deep learning. Jadi kemarin waktu ku S3 ngambil permasalahan di Tunarungu, kemudian menggunakan metode deep learning, yaitu LSTM dengan CRO untuk melakukan klasifikasi terhadap gerakan-gerakan bahasa isyarat oleh tunarungu itu. Ya. Oke, jadi perbedaan antara supervised learning dengan unsupervised learning itu terletak dari label datanya. Jadi yang unsupervised learning itu tidak memiliki label data. Ini biasa lebih dikenal dengan istilah string, ya, lebih banyak di string. Jadi data-data yang ada di sebelah kiri ini yang tidak mempunyai label itu akan diolah sehingga nanti outputnya itu tanpa label, ya, tidak ada labelnya. Beda hanya dengan yang tadi ya, klasifikasi. Ini nanti outputnya akan mengelompokkan sesuai dengan kriterianya atau ciri-cirinya. Seperti ini, ada gambar apa itu ya? Gambar bawang, ya, dia mungkin
Recording
memiliki
stopped.
karakteristik yang sama atau warna yang sama, sehingga dikelompok-kelompokkan menjadi satu kelompok. Ya. Ya, jadi ini yang ketiga adalah supervised learning, ya, mirip dengan jadi ada gabungan antara unsupervised dengan supervised learning. Ya. Reinforcement learning. Jadi ini ada beberapa penelitian. Jadi ini materi yang saya bawakan adalah
Recording in progress.
sebuah hasil review juga dari jurnal internasional. Saya ambil itu jurnal review. Dia mengklasifikasikan semua masalah-masalah yang terjadi di wireless sensor network dan diselesaikan dengan menggunakan metode-metode machine learning yang sebagaimana yang dijelaskan sebelumnya, ya. Jadi di sini kita lihat, ya, jelas kelihatan ya, Ibu Irna, ini jelas kelihatan ya tulisannya. Jadi ini ada beberapa masalah, ya. Jadi ada routing, fungsional, itu clustering and aggregation, energy harvesting, localization, event detection, MAC. Nah, itu yang masuk di kategori fungsional. Dan yang kedua ada yang non-functional security, politics, dan synchronization. Itu ini ada semua jurnal yang ini, jadi jika misalnya ada yang minta nanti yang bertanya linknya di mana, ya nanti saya coba kirimkan jurnalnya. Ini tinggal diklik, dicari jurnal yang berkaitan dengan ini. Andai kata ada mahasiswa yang tertarik untuk meneliti di bagian routing, ya permasalahan di routingnya, ini ada beberapa jurnal yang membahas masalah itu. Dia menggunakan ANN, ada yang menggunakan SPM, ada yang menggunakan BN, SPD, dan lain-lain. Begitupun dengan jika andai kata ada juga yang tertarik dengan localization, itu pemindahan-pemindahan atau mobility dari sensor itu, ada beberapa jurnal juga yang sudah membahas masalah itu. Dan mungkin saja jurnal ini kan kelihatannya masih jurnal yang lama ya. Jadi mungkin ada yang sudah ada yang terbaru yang membahas masalah yang seperti ini. Oke, lanjut ya. Jadi sekarang ya, jadi ada stigma bahwa IoT itu sudah berpindah ya ke Internet of Things to Artificial Intelligence of Things. Ya. Jadi ada beberapa perbedaan. Jadi kita sudah bisa lihat bahwa arsitektur dasar dari IoT itu ya, seperti ini, ada sensor, ada middleware-nya menggunakan beberapa pemrosesan, dan ada yang digunakan untuk menampilkan output ke klien. Jadi jika kita lihat di apa namanya di AIoT, nah, itu ada 5 step ya: analisis platform, artificial intelligence, better outcome, bigger data, dan IoT data. Jadi ini sudah mengarah ke sana ya. Jadi mungkin yang juga ditampilkan oleh Dr. Sakap itu ya, itu hampir semuanya ya mengarah ke AIoT ya. Jadi ada beberapa proyek saya lihat tadi yang sudah apa namanya sudah menggunakan teknologi AI di dalamnya untuk mengambil sebuah keputusan dan lain-lain. Oke, jadi selain tren yang tadi yang sudah berkembang, yang kedua adalah ada tantangan yang dimiliki ya oleh wireless itu dengan kombinasi AI. Yang pertama itu adalah new routing cost under unexpected scam ya. Jadi biaya yang ada yang terjadi jika ada perubahan skema dalam lingkungan itu ya. Jadi perlu juga ini masalah ya. Jadi mungkin nanti ada yang tertarik untuk meneliti ke wireless sensor network. Ini masih ada 6 permasalahan yang mungkin bisa diteliti. Gimana permasalahannya? Masalah biayanya, komunikasinya. Yang ketiga adalah energi konsumsinya. Jadi kalau kita lihat energi konsumsi itu adalah bagaimana sensor itu kan memiliki sumber energi ya, dan pasti jika ada AI yang bekerja di dalamnya pasti lebih banyak energi yang dibutuhkan karena terjadi pemrosesan data menggunakan teknologi AI di dalam sensor network tersebut. Dari itu perlu dipikirkan lebih jauh bagaimana pengembangan ke depannya supaya energi yang ada itu bisa dimaksimalkan. Apakah dengan joint research dengan renewable, dengan dosen-dosen yang atau peneliti yang memang lebih cenderung ke renewable energy, menggunakan teknologi-teknologi solar panel surya, ya, angin, panas, dan lain-lain. Yang keempat, knowledge management. Jadi AI itu tergantung dari riwayat data. Jadi ada suatu waktu ini yang akan menjadi masalah jika riwayat data dari sensor itu belum ada. Jadi itu mungkin bisa dipikirkan lebih jauh gimana cara mengadakan data sehingga pengetahuan dari AI itu terus berkembang ya. Yang kelima adalah interoperability, yaitu adalah adanya perbedaan-perbedaan vendor ya. Jadi ada sensor A, B, dan C dengan microcontroller A, B, dan C itu mungkin saja berbeda API-nya atau bagaimana sinkronisasinya sehingga itu akan menyulitkan bagi peneliti untuk menyinkronkan beberapa alat tersebut. Tapi itu menjadi tantangan ke depannya. Dan yang keenam, yang paling penting juga ya adalah keamanan dan privasi data itu. Oke, jadi ke depannya itu ada beberapa ya. Jadi bagaimana data itu agregasi dan fusi, bagaimana mensupport jaringan yang mobile. Yang ketiga, bagaimana menghemat energi dari sensor itu. Dan yang ketiga, yang keempat adalah integrating IoT, Edge and fog computing ya. Sehingga ini ada beberapa arah ke depan itu sehingga semua apa yang dicita-citakan, yang diinginkan itu dapat berjalan dengan baik. Jadi ini perbandingan ya. Jadi ini ada beberapa parameter atau variabel yang membandingkan antara menggunakan traditional approach atau traditional sensor network dengan menggunakan AI di net sensor tersebut. Jadi yang paling tinggi persentasenya adalah pasti akurasinya lebih tinggi ya. Jadi kalau kita membandingkan penggunaan AI pada wireless sensor tersebut dengan yang tidak, ya pasti hal yang pertama yang membedakan adalah peningkatan dari akurasi itu ya. Yang kedua adalah peningkatan dari lifetime dari jaringannya, akurasi, apalagi ini kompleksitinya dan lain. Jadi ini berdasarkan dari 124 jurnal yang membahas masalah itu yang dibuat di review sehingga bisa menghasilkan diagram seperti ini. Jadi ini datanya bukan dari saya, ini saya ambil dari review jurnal yang lebih 100 itu yang membahas masalah IoT dan pengembangan ke depannya, sehingga kita bisa lihat bahwa peningkatan akurasi itulah yang menempati poin pertama atau yang pertama. Oke, Ibu Irna, mungkin sekian karena ini sudah jam 12 ya. Oke, saya kembalikan ke Ibu Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke, waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Ridwan, for your valuable presentation. Okay, maybe this is in Q&A session. Is there any question? Yes, we will open the Q&A session. Please feel free to submit your question in the chat box, and I will direct them to our speaker. Okay, Ibu Wahidah, is there any question in the chat box? No?
I think there is no question, Ibu, on the chat box. Untuk Bapak Ibu, mungkin saya bisa memberitahukan penyampaian pengisian presensi ya, Bu. Mohon izin. Iya, jadi untuk link presensi sudah saya share di kolom chat. Bapak Ibu, silahkan untuk mengisi presensi tersebut. Untuk sertifikatnya nanti akan kami kirimkan segera melalui email yang telah dikirimkan melalui link presensi tersebut. Terima kasih, Bu Irna.
Oke, terima kasih Ibu Wahidah. Is there any question? If no any question, maybe karena ini udah waktu duhur ya. Let me briefly summarize the key takeaway from today's session. Is there any question? No? Okay. Let me summarize. About sensor network and IoT ecosystem. This is, I have some note. So the sensor network and the IoT ecosystem are essential foundation for future technology. By connecting devices, environment, and systems, they help us make smarter database decision in many fields, like healthcare, agriculture, smart cities, and environmental monitoring. This ecosystem boosts efficiency, innovation, and sustainable growth, creating a future where technology integrates smoothly into everyday life. As this technology continues to develop, they have the potential to make a big positive impact on society and the global economy. Maybe I highlight a leader from Dr. Shakaf illustrate about his contribution in the development of wireless sensor network, which enable real-time data collection, in monitoring across large area, particularly in agricultural field. This network allow farmers to track critical parameters such as soil moisture, temperature, and in the field of smart sensing, Dr. Shakaf developed a system to detect a disease in crop applied in oil palm plantation. IoT detect early sign of basal steam rot, helping to prevent crop loss. Dr. Shakaf also explore about sensor fusion, the integration of multiple sensor types. And this approach has been especially effective for monitoring, maybe in agriculture, quality in crops like mango, maybe. Terus kemudian his work in IoT and smart sensor network research significantly advanced real-time monitoring system to make them smarter, more accurate, and accessible for application in many things, agriculture, environmental health, and beyond. Okay. And I make a note from the presentation of Dr. Ridwan, highlight about AI integration with sensor network. What the advantage and what disadvantage, and I had note the advantage such as real-time response, kemudian predictive insight, efficient data use, scalability, and adaptability. And the disadvantage for AI integration with sensor network, such as high power needs, privacy concern, costly setup, risks of errors, and ongoing maintenance. Okay, and our speaker provides a comprehensive view of future technology. And I'm sure we all gain valuable insight today. And maybe potential of our collaboration research, maybe Dr. Ahmad Sakaf and Dr. Ridwan.
Boleh,
Wajib.
boleh insyaAllah.
Wajib.
I'm in architecture engineering.
I see.
Okay. Okay. Maybe we in the closing session. Yes. Finally, we come to the end of morning class. For to all participants, don't forget to fill the presidency that have been shared with Ms. Wahida. And I want to say many thanks to both our speakers today, Dr. Sakaf and Dr. Ridwan. Thank you very much for your time and your amazing presentation.
Thank you for Maharida, Ibu Irna.
Yes, I also want to express my appreciation to all participants. For actively engaging the today's session. Okay, thank you Ibu Siti Nurul.
Terima kasih Pak Syafaat,
kasih.
Ibu Irna,
Yes,
Ibu
and tak
Maharida.
lupa. Yes,
Terima
tak lupa. Many
kasih.
thanks to LPBKUI, especially to Mem Maharida and all team for the extraordinary support so this event can be carried out